Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Dodgers Dawgs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. My name is Austin Brubaker, and it is a privilege to be back here. Dodgers Dawgs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. It's been it's been a few weeks since I've had the privilege to be able to go on Dodgers Daily, which that's what it is every single time that I'm able to go on here. An absolute privilege to be able to use this platform, to be able to speak to you guys and talk about all the different things in the world of Dodgers baseball. We certainly are going to be able to do that today, especially with the month of June winding down. And as we're getting into the month of July, a lot of questions start turning into the aspect of October, making sure that the Dodgers have enough resources to be able to go for a postseason run, especially with the trade deadline coming up, I believe at the beginning of August this year. We're going to be diving into a lot of that over the next couple of weeks, as well as talking about just this overall Dodgers team and what resources perhaps they would need additionally in order to put themselves in the best position to three-peat. Talking a little bit of strategy and so all those different aspects and things. But I want to start off the show a little bit of a different direction. As you probably have noticed, we have not been on Dodgers Daily over the past couple of weeks. One, I want to put right off the offset, there's no animosity at all between Casey and I. Casey is amazing with what he's doing. I want to provide you guys just with a little bit of a brief explanation. Might repeat it a couple of times throughout the show just in case people tune on. But I want to respect you guys because you guys have been loyal fans and listeners here at Dodgers Daily. A couple of different things pop up. One, Dodgers Daily is not our full-time jobs. Casey and I both have full-time jobs that we have to do, and there's a lot of different scheduling things that can interfere with that. During the regular season, I am very heavily involved with Great Lakes. I also am very heavily involved with church, as well as full-time job that I've got. And I've got family to be able to deal with, which means that Dodgers Daily kind of goes where I can kind of fit it in with the schedule. Past couple of weeks, have not been able to fit that into the schedule. Actually was planning on doing a show last Monday, but I spilled some water on my computer. I'm really hoping that everything is all good with that. Sounds like everything should be good with that. Casey similarly has a very busy schedule with all the different things that he has. However, you will have noticed, based on his Twitter account, he has not posted very much of anything over the month of June. That is in part because of scheduling things. A lot of things have gotten busy. He also is dealing with some sickness right now. He has a fever, pretty bad fevers that he's been dealing with over the past couple of weeks that have kept him out from doing a whole lot of extra stuff. He's done a little bit on the Oklahoma State side of things, but over the past couple of weeks, there just really has not been enough time or enough health to be able to do much on the Dodgers side of things. So we've taken a little bit of a step back. Casey is, I don't believe, going to be feeling up to doing shows this week, but I believe his hope is that he's going to be able to do shows next week, as well as getting back into the routine of things. And until then, I'm happy to be able to join in when I can to be able to do these shows for you guys. As far as I know, which I was able to talk to Casey earlier today, actually within the past hour or so, seems to be doing fine, just dealing with a lot of sicknesses right now, which has limited our ability to be able to do shows, especially because Casey's not on and I'm super busy. There's nobody really else that's able to run the show as things are set up right now. So I appreciate your patience with everything. Casey is incredible at what he is able to do, and whenever he is able to go on, I know you guys enjoy it. I enjoy being able to listen and learn from him, and I love the privileges that he's been able to allow me to be able to do this show as I've been able to do it. So it's been very, very limited over the past couple of weeks. That's kind of what's been going on. If there's times like that, we'll try to give you guys updates as best as we possibly can, but also understand timeline gets a little bit busy. So I've not been able to talk a whole lot of Dodgers baseball. Actually, did have the chance to be able to talk to Coach Barikoff on his show last week. I believe it was last Wednesday is what I talked to him on the Ravine Rundown. A very fun show that I was able to do with Coach Barikoff. If you're not following them, please follow them. We talked a little bit about Dodgers baseball. I want to be able to continue with that conversation, as well as provide a little bit of something that just what I'm keeping in mind. What we're going to do on today's show is it's not going to be a full, we're going to list a whole bunch of different players' names as far as perhaps the Dodgers should trade for this player. We've done that in the past before. That could be something that we could do going forward on future shows. but I want to be able to provide a little bit of an overview of how to be able to look and evaluate this roster as we go forward for the Los Angeles Dodgers, because I want us to understand where the Dodgers are at before we go trying to address what the Dodgers could potentially need going forward. And I think this is going to be something that the Dodgers are going to do as best as they possibly can. We're going to be diving into that, giving you guys a little bit of a resource to be able to do that. But first, I got to be able to communicate with you guys because I've not had the chance to be able to communicate with you guys recently as well. So thank you for tuning in, Larry Scott, Sammy Boy Smith, as well as Showtime LA, talking a little bit about Emil Morales and the adjustments that he's making. Yeah, it was a really awesome game for Emil Morales and really good adjustments that he's been able to make this past week. Loons had a really good week. Rough game yesterday, but overall 5-run on the road trip to Lansing. Good stuff. We'll get into the minor league portion in a little bit. Thank you for Honey Oats, Dodgers Daily back. Talked a little bit about Casey and stuff. Just dealing with some sicknesses right now, which are limiting his ability to be able to go on. Chuck Huddleston as well. Thank you for joining in. Daniel Sperry Sports Highlights as well. So let's go ahead and dive into a little bit of a couple of different news aspects. One, breaking news or real, I don't know if it's necessarily breaking, but within the past hour or two, Teoscar Hernandez is returning to the Los Angeles Dodgers, which is great news for this Dodgers team, specifically because the impact that his absence has had against left-handed pitching. I don't think we've fully understood or realized the negative effect that removing Teoscar Hernandez from this lineup and removing Will Smith for this lineup has had on their ability to hit against left-handed pitching. Since Teoscar Hernandez left, this is the Los Angeles Dodgers OPS against left-handed pitching. 588. That is second to last in Major League Baseball, 29th in Major League Baseball, and it's because they've missed Teoscar Hernandez, who is there to be a full-time outfielder, but specifically to hit against left-handed pitching. Will Smith, they've missed for a vast majority of that time with his injury. He also is somebody that can help hit against left-handed pitching. Also, this has corresponded with some of the struggles that we've seen with Andy Pages, who during this stretch has not hit well against lefties, which is normally a key aspect of his game. Just a 408 OPS, not on-base percentage, not batting average, OPS against lefties during that particular stretch. And then Mookie Betts, who is starting to turn things around, was struggling a little bit early during that stretch. So what I think is going to be greatest about the aspect of Teoscar Hernandez's return is it's going to add a little bit more stability to this lineup, particularly against left-handed pitching. A lineup that very much has needed that stability against lefties. One of those anchors that's not reliant on left-handed hitters hitting against lefties, not reliant on Shohei hitting lefties, not reliant on Max Muncy hitting for lefties, Freddie Freeman hitting against lefties. You have somebody else that you can rely upon a little bit more to add to the mix, and I think Teo's return is going to do that. You've seen some of the home runs that he's hit against Reno for Oklahoma City over the past couple of weeks. Seems to be comfortable. I'm looking forward to see what Teoscar Hernandez is able to do in the batter's box going forward to be able to help this Dodgers lineup. I think it can only help for the Dodgers. Also, Another quick note, it sounds like Evan Phillips is going to be back fairly soon. I don't have any breaking news that Evan Phillips is officially back on the Los Angeles Dodgers as part of their bullpen, but this is another guy that is coming back from the bullpen type group to be able to help this Dodgers team. Remember, this past offseason, it was a question of, okay, are the Dodgers going to bring back Evan Phillips after I believe they did not tender him a contract, decided to re-sign with the Dodgers, and this is very much a welcome sight for the Dodgers, who over the past in the month of June have had a +5 ERA out of the bullpen. It's closer to 4 by expected ERA. I think they're performing a lot better than what the overall ERA numbers would suggest. But still, adding somebody like Evan Phillips, who go back to 2023 to 2025, 266 ERA at 28% strikeout percentage, 115 stuff plus, 314 expected ERA. He is a very, very good reliever when he is right. We'll see if he's able to add add some additional pieces to the Dodgers element to be able to help this roster overall. Just going through a couple of other things, news and notes. Edwin Diaz sounds like throwing some bullpens. We'll see when Edwin Diaz is able to come back. Hopefully sometime during the month of July would be, cross your fingers, and the hope for him just would be another additional piece, because once Evan Phillips comes back, let's say that he takes Jonathan Hernandez's bullpen spot, then it becomes a real conversation and question as who does Edwin Diaz take over, assuming that there's no injury, which is not a safe assumption. Probably takes over somebody who spent some time on the injured list. But at least that starts to show you some of the depth of relievers that the Dodgers should hopefully have when they come back. Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow still trying to work their way back. Blake Snell, it sounds like, is a little bit ahead of Tyler Glasnow in their progressions. That is going to be one of the major storylines to watch out for. Obviously, two starting pitchers who are prominent roles on this Dodgers team that when they are the Dodgers are relying upon to be healthy going into the postseason. Doesn't mean you can't win without them, but they are very much part of the plan for the Dodgers and the bullpen. That's kind of the overall injury side of things aspect. What I want to be able to do now is turn things over into a little bit more of a philosophical question, as well as be able to present you guys with some questions as to different tools and stuff that you guys could perhaps use going forward when evaluating this Dodgers lineup. And it comes down to postseason and different trade deadline acquisitions. So, just looking overall at this aspect of the Dodgers team, it becomes very difficult to find individual areas where the Dodgers could perhaps improve. You look at the Dodgers offense. They have the best offense by WRC plus in the game of baseball. I believe it's a 118 WRC plus. Second best is 109. They have 9-point advantage in the next best team. Best expected stats, they walk a lot. They don't strike out a whole lot. Best batting average, if you like batting average. Best on-base percentage, best slugging percentage. Barrel percentage, I believe, is second in Major League Baseball. They're one of the best offensive teams in the game of baseball. Pitching-wise, they're one of the top 2 teams in the game of baseball. Bullpen is like top 7-ish. So they're like the 5 to 10-ish range out of the bullpen. But they're limiting the amount of innings that they're pitching out of the bullpen, while also getting a lot of innings out of their starting pitchers, which have done phenomenal. The pitching staff is really good, really solid, and by all metrics, ERA estimators, look at strikeout minus walk percentage, that is really good. Stuff plus is really good. Those metrics are all in favor of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Defense as well is really good for the Dodgers. They're a top 5 defensive team. So when you have an offense that's a top 3 offense, a pitching staff that's a top 5 pitching staff, and a defense that also is a top 5 defense in the game of baseball, there's very little holes that this Dodgers team has to plug, especially because the Dodgers mindset is not about winning games in September. They have a 10-game lead on the San Diego Padres because they took 2 out of 3 against the Padres. They are not concerned about the rest of the way being able to win enough games in order to be able to, let's say, win the division. I don't think they're necessarily concerned about that. And I don't think they're as concerned, although I think this is something they would absolutely prioritize and they're well on their way to be able to doing. I don't think that it is the 100% priority to get the number 1 seed in the division. I think the overall priority is to make sure that everybody is healthy, ready to go going into October, and making sure that they feel comfortable about their team going into October. Which means that the entire mindset that we have to have as Dodgers fans, which I know you guys pretty much are already accustomed to at this point, as am I, is what is this team gonna look like in October, and how confident are we in these individual guys being able to get to October and perform well in October. And those are the 2 key aspects that I want to be able to focus on and be able to put some sort of numbers to try to be able to account for that as Dodgers fans. So what I've been able to do, or what I've been really thinking about in terms of this Dodgers team, and wanted to be able to put it on paper for you guys, and we can have a little bit of discussion whether the numbers that I have are close to accurate, somewhat accurate, provide a little bit of justification as I can, is I want to focus on 2 different aspects that will lead into one key metric that we have. First one, postseason confidence. How confident are we in this individual player to make a postseason impact for the Dodgers in one way or another? This could be for position players, being good with the bat in October. How confident are we that they have the ability and we believe that they can make an impact in October? This is more of especially when thinking about this and the way that I approach this with somebody like a Shohei Ohtani. I'm not 100% sure that he's going to hit in October, but I'm 100% sure that he's the guy that I want on this team going into October to help make an impact for this roster, and I believe that he can have a very significant or some type of role to be able to fit into this Dodgers team. Postseason confidence, how confident am I that they can perform in whatever type of role that the Dodgers are going to designate for them, similar-ish to the role that the Dodgers have designated for them during the course of the regular season. And then number two, and this is an aspect that will especially come up when we're talking about pitching, health. How confident am I that this individual player is going to be healthy going forward? I think you combine postseason impact, your confidence in that, and your health confidence, that creates a postseason impact type of score. Postseason confidence, health confidence creates a postseason impact type of score, and that's going to help determine whether or not you need to make certain moves in order to help supplement, especially if the postseason impact percentage, whether that's due to not confident in certain players or not confident in a player's health, those are the areas that I think the Dodgers wouldn't have to address going forward, and I wanted to be able to provide some sort of numbers to be able to do that. So as we do on the shows that I do, we're going to go ahead do a little bit of Excel spreadsheets that I have right here. So what we're going to take a look at first is the position player core for this Dodgers team and be able to do a little bit of a deep dive and evaluation as to how confident you are that they're going to be able to make some sort of impact for the Dodgers. A couple of notes. This column right here, column that's highlighted, postseason confidence. This is the first thing that I had talked about, the ability to make an impact during the postseason, or the confidence that you would have with them being on the postseason roster for the Dodgers. This column right here, health confidence, is the percent confidence that you are that they're going to be healthy going into October. One rule of note that I have for this, I'm not going to put any higher for position players than 95% confident, only because you can't be 100% confident that they're going to be healthy. Similar for pitchers, I'm not going to put any confidence score higher than 90% for their confidence. That's just me. Perhaps you could be different with that. This column right here, column E, is really the crux of this analysis. This is postseason impact percentage. All this is multiplies postseason confidence and the health confidence to give us some sort of impact type score that the Dodgers could have. Now, a couple of other things to note is it is very unlikely that any sort of team is going to have all players be 90% or above, or even 80% above. But the more of those players that you feel can have a postseason impact that are both healthy and confident going into the postseason, I think that's going to show you that you have a really good club. For example, Freddie Freeman. I'm fully confident with his abilities to be able to hit in October, and I feel like he is somebody that is going to be healthy throughout the course of the regular season. I feel very confident in that. Postseason impact percentage, 95% that he's going to have a postseason impact. Same thing with Shohei Ohtani, exact same numbers. Mookie Betts, perhaps a little bit less with the postseason confidence, although this is rising daily as Mookie Betts has been able to make an impact on the field. I just put that at 95% right now. Health confidence, 95%. Feel very confident in Mookie Betts. Will Smith, feel very confident, or I should say Max Muncy, feel very confident in his ability, very confident postseason. All the question of, and this is a very minor question of if he's going to stay healthy. I think he will. I'm very confident that he's going to be able to stay healthy. And then Andy Pages, the only question that you could have with Andy Pages is the struggles that he had in the previous postseason. However, with what he's been able to do this regular season, I know it's been a little bit of a struggle during the month of June. By a little bit of struggle, I mean 75 WRC plus for Andy Pages. Definitely a drop-off offensively, but I'm still very confident in his ability to be able to make an impact and stay healthy. With at the very least, his defensive abilities in center field, which, by the way, we got some numbers on here we can go ahead and back up. He's on pace for about a 20, if you were to play a 162 game season, for about a 20 defensive run save type of season. outs above average around that mark as well. He is on pace for a great defensive season. Also, Max Muncy is incredible defensively this year, on pace for about 13 defensive run saves, outs above average, field and run value per 162. I feel pretty confident in Andy Pages' ability to be able to go out there and make a postseason impact. This is where we start to get a little bit of a drop-off. So the players that you're super confident about, Freeman, Ohtani, Betts, Muncy, and Pages, gets a little bit of a drop-off to about 80% with Will Smith, not because of his performance, but because of his health that he has. There's been a lot of different backtracks with Will Smith and his health. He was supposed to come back within a couple of days, turn into a couple of weeks. Now it's turning into nearly a month for Will Smith from when he got injured to when he's going to be able to come back. I still believe that he's going to come back by October, and I don't see any evidence that the Dodgers are panicked that Will Smith won't be able to come back by October. And as long as he's healthy for that, which I think there's a good shot that he will be able to, I feel like he's going to have a good postseason impact. Teoscar Hernandez, I have similar-ish health score. Perhaps I should put a little bit low or put a bit higher than what Will Smith is. But I'm confident with Teoscar Hernandez's ability impact in the postseason. I'm also pretty confident in Teoscar Hernandez being able to be healthy for the postseason. About a 76% for Teo. Kyle Tucker, again, hasn't had the full season that we were expecting. But this is the thing that you have to remember with Kyle Tucker is there is still in there what there has been in the past. And even if it doesn't get to that extreme levels, you still have a player that at least is going to provide you with league average type of production. Way drop off from what the Dodgers are paying for. Totally fair to have criticism for him not being able to perform exactly what you were hoping for, but I have confidence with his ability to be able to stay healthy, and I still am pretty confident in him being able to turn things around. There are some certain things that he needs to be able to work on, especially with swing decisions. He's swinging way too much. 49% swing percentage, especially with first pitch swing percentage. That's been talked about quite a bit, but his chase is up pretty dramatically. If he reins that in, becomes the disciplined hitter that we know that he can be, even if the power has decreased quite a bit, I still think he can be a valuable player for the Dodgers going into October. 72% for him. Then we get to Tommy Edman, who has made a return for the Dodgers. Actually has hit really well, and that's a very welcome sign for the Dodgers, because then you have confidence. The thing about Tommy Edman, his profile actually looks very similar to what Alex Freeland has been producing for the most part, with just a touch more offense. Meaning, when you're thinking about the profile of Tommy Edman as an offensive player, it's more of a 90 to 95 WRC plus player with great defense at second base. Tommy Edman just adds a little bit more defensive versatility, as well as he's a better hitter against left-handed pitching than he is against righties, although he has hit both so far this year. With Edman, his return, he has gone out there and hit really well. Now, we have to be patient with this because, as we saw at the beginning, I believe it was last year, where Edman went off and was phenomenal out of the gate, started to slow down a little bit as the season progresses. I want to see how he's able to make some of those adjustments. But overall, feel confident in Edman being able to make an impact during October. It's all about his health. 75% confident, though, in his health. Then we get to Miguel Rojas, who shouldn't probably be a starter for the Dodgers in the postseason. I say that even though started games 6 and 7, made a massive impact for the Dodgers team. That's not going to be plan one for the Dodgers, but still, with the role that he has, I think the Dodgers are pretty confident in him, especially because you look at versus left-handed pitching this year, 131 WRC plus against lefties. That is going to be the role that Miguel Rojas is going to have. Defense plus hit against lefties. Don't want him hitting against righties, just a 41 WRC plus against righties, but against lefties, he has a very good role on this team. Those are the players, and again, this is 10 different players that you are at least pretty confident in being able to make some sort of impact for the Dodgers as an on the offensive side of things. And that's 10 players. You're only going to be able to start 9 of them. You could fill in a couple of them. You have with this really good depth. It all becomes about What can you do with some of the other guys? Do you need to have any more guys that you are way more comfortable in? And if that's the case, what position do they help replace? For example, with Tommy Edman, I think he is somebody that is very likely to play the bulk second base position during the postseason type of run, even if somebody like an Alex Freeland or a Ha-Seong Kim is able to hit really well against right-handed pitching. I still think during the postseason, push comes to shove, I think it's going to be Tommy Edman that's going to get the vast bulk of those plate appearances with that. Is there somebody that's going to be a dramatic upgrade from Tommy Edman that you feel comfortable with, and especially with Teoscar Hernandez returning and those plate appearances and left field diminishing? I don't know. With Tommy Edman, his role would be reduced to what exactly? If you go ahead and trade, for example, for Gleyber Torres, or trade for another second baseman that's out there, Bo Bichette, or somebody like that, the role would get very diminished, and I think with Tommy Edman, I think he's able to do enough for this Dodgers team that you feel confident enough to where the upgrade wouldn't necessarily be worth the prospect and long-term cost that would entail with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Let's go into some of the other aspects of the team. Alex Call is somebody that you feel fairly confident in a very defined role for Alex Call during the postseason. It's versus left-handed pitching. 159 WRC plus versus lefties this year, and he plays good defense. That is going to have a role for this Dodgers team in October. It might not be the prettiest role, but I think that does have some type of role, especially because you need a fourth outfielder, and having somebody like that can step in and fill in would be a very good thing. 108 WRC plus for Alex Call in the season. For Dalton Rushing, look, we're not going to dive into the controversy. A lot of people have voiced their opinions about the Dalton Rushing Shohei Ohtani controversy. We're not going to address that during the show today. I want to do my best to be able to uplift the players. I get the frustration that you guys have with Dalton Rushing. That's not what the show is about, though, right now. As a backup catcher, especially with his ability to provide hits, and if you look at postseason, Will Smith is probably going to catch most, if not every single game for the Dodgers during the postseason. Having somebody like a Dalton Rushing who has the ability to really impact the baseball with the bat, 123 WRC plus for him on the season, has hit both righties and lefties. 341 expected weighted on base average. I think you feel confident with him being your backup catcher. Kike Hernandez, it's all about, the main thing with him is how confident are you with his health? I have it at about 50%, only because we haven't necessarily heard a whole lot. I expect him to be back by October, but I'm not exactly sure. That's 3 additional players. That's 13 players that you can have on your roster. Remember, postseason is a little bit different than regular season. Typically, teams have 14 to 15 position players on their roster. So you look at some of the other options that you could have. Alex Freeland, second base, been about 86 WRC plus, but about league average, 100 against right-handed pitching with really good defense, on pace for about a 12 defensive run saves, outs above average, field and run value type of production. And this is somebody who has spent a vast bulk of the time in Los Angeles. He could be option. Not necessarily the prettiest or one that you'd feel the most comfortable with, but somebody that you could justify being part of the roster. Ryan Ward, who was just optioned back to Oklahoma City with the return of Teoscar Hernandez. Not necessarily sure what you're going to get for him. 23-ish% postseason impact. Ha-Seong Kim, I have about 18%. The only reason why I have him lower than what Alex Freeland is because if you look at some of the struggles that Kim has had at AAA since going back down, it's been quite a struggle for Ha-Seong Kim. Point blank, since returning to Oklahoma City. You can make the argument, though, you're not using him for his bat, you're using him for the defense and for the speed that you could provide pinch running opportunities, in which you could very well make a case that he should get the case over somebody like an Alex Freeland, especially with some of the role that speed can have during a postseason type of game. Alex Freeland, you feel less confident than somebody like a Ha-Seong Kim being able to do that. And then Alec Thomas, a little bit of an unknown as part of the system, came over in a trade, just part of the 40-man roster, decided to throw him on there as part of the mix. So overall, what we are seeing is there's about 10 guys that you feel confident in. Confidence I put as postseason impact percentage above 50%. 10 guys that I feel confident in being on the postseason roster, part of the mix, and about 14 guys that I put as realistic options. realistic options defined as about 25% or greater impact score, meaning that from the roster that the Dodgers have right now, assuming that these guys for the most part stay healthy, you could field a club and feel pretty confident having 14 of these guys on your postseason roster and be able to put a team type of together. Now, you could have slight changes to how confident you are on a player's health or how confident you are with these players being on the Dodgers postseason roster and being able to make some type of impact for this Dodgers team. But this is what I've been able to come up with. And I think this, in combination with just the overall state of where the Dodgers are at as an offensive unit. We went through the numbers at the beginning of the show, top offense in the game of baseball, just overall. There really is not any pressing need to add individual things to this Dodgers lineup. You could look at the struggles versus left-handed pitching, but then you can make the argument, okay, with Teoscar's return, with Mookie Betts returning into form, with Will Smith eventually coming back, with Andy Pages, we know he's not a 400 OPS hitter against lefties, he's a much better hitter against that. You start to have different answers as part of the mix. The one thing offensively that the Dodgers don't really have is the ability to have speed on the base paths, which could lead into the argument of Ha-Seong Kim, or if somebody, and this is way out of left field, but we had mentioned it right before the injury, and he has returned back. We'll see how he is able to be health-wise in Ontario, but somebody like a Kendall George, having his speed, could potentially be could be a dark horse type of option for the Dodgers to turn to if they're one thing that they're looking for off the bench is speed. But the point of this is they have options offensively to be able to turn to where they don't have to make some sort of trade for a big offensive piece to put this team over the top. A lot of it comes down to, man, can some of these guys really turn the corner? Can Kyle Tucker, who the Dodgers are stuck with for 3 years after this, can he turn the corner and become the player that he can be? Mookie Betts looks like he's turning the corner. Can Will Smith rebound and come back healthy? How's Teoscar Hernandez going to be able to do back? I think a lot of the changes that the Dodgers are going to make offensively are going to be mostly internal. And unless there is an advantageous situation that presents itself to the Dodgers to get, for example, a massive upgrade at a cheap cost of the second base position that the Dodgers can't refuse, I think they're going to be content with where they are offensively. Things can change. Injuries can happen. If Will Smith's injury prolongs itself, perhaps you start looking at the catcher market and perhaps you look at somebody like a Ryan Jeffers from Minnesota, and that has to be something that they address. But until then, I think that's the state of where I'm sitting with the Dodgers offense and their postseason impact. All those numbers subject to change. Kind of curious to see what are some of your thoughts with all these different aspects or some of the perhaps changes that you would make to some of the numbers that I have in the postseason confidence that you have with each one of these guys. Are there certain players that I'm too low on, too confident in? Please let me know and be happy to be able to discuss that. However, what I want to be able to do now is I don't think that's necessarily the aspect that the Dodgers are going to be focused on. I think rather it's going to be primarily pitching that the Dodgers are going to focus on. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at all the Dodgers players on the 40-man roster and how confident we are. 40-man roster plus the 60-day injured list. That's how I'm defining this. How confident we are in each one of these players being able to make an impact. It's going to be divided starting pitching first and then bullpen arms as well. So similarly, postseason confidence we have right here. How confident are we if this player is on the postseason roster, getting postseason type of innings for this club? Similarly, health confidence. How confident are we that this player is even going to be healthy going into October? That's going to create a postseason impact percentage score. And just for context, we have some statistics over here. Innings pitched, these are all 2026 stats. Innings pitched, expected ERA, strikeout minus walk percentage, and stuff plus to put those metrics right next to you guys, let you guys know where they're at. Looking at starters, and they're divided not by whether they would be a postseason starter, but whether or not during the regular season they are a starting pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers. So Yoshinobu Yamamoto, obviously confident with his ability in October. Again, 90% is going to be the max confidence score that I'm going to give each one of these players. I'm still very confident that Yamamoto is going to be healthy for October. I get it. He pitched a ton last year, and they're using him quite a bit during the regular season, which I don't know if that's the smartest plan. Until things change, I'm confident with his ability to be able to get to October. He's going to make a postseason impact, as well as Justin Robleski. He is somebody that, for many Dodgers fans, his ability on the mound has earned a ton of respect. Sub-3 ERA on the season. The expected numbers are much higher than that, specifically because of his lack of ability to get swing and miss, or limited availability, although that has bounced up a little bit more over the past month or so as some of his velo has come back. And I think not necessarily in a starting pitching role, but in a postseason role, I think a lot of Dodgers fans are very, very confident in Justin Robleski and his ability to take the mound. You could say 100% confidence is aggressive, but that's what I'm going to put it at right now. Might alter that going forward, especially with some of the underlying metrics and stuff, but that shows you how confident I am with him. Shohei Ohtani, Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, also very confident in each one of their abilities. I put Shohei Ohtani's health at about 80%. That's why he's below Robleski. Only because some of the issues that he's been dealing with different blisters and stuff, that should not impact his ability to be able to pitch in October, but just something to mark and be aware of as they go forward. And certainly the Dodgers are going to make sure that Ohtani is going to be ready to pitch in October, because this season is ridiculous. Even with the expected ERA being higher than what his ERA is, it's still a 2.65 expected ERA. Ridiculous stuff with the 20% strikeout minus walk percentage. Blake Snell, I think, is somebody that I'm more confident in being able to return than somebody like a Tyler Glasnow. Put it, Blake Snell, 60% right now. As we start to see more, that confidence should rise, and I'm still have no reason to doubt Blake Snell and what he's able to do in October. Tyler Glasnow, I'm very confident with his ability to pitch in October if he's healthy. But this is the biggest thing, is if he's healthy. And right now, there's not a whole lot of news out of Tyler Glasnow, and it's taking a lot longer than what initial thoughts would have been for Glasnow. So I have health confidence. Again, this is not inside information. The Dodgers have their own numbers, and they certainly could be thinking about it similar-ish to how I'm thinking about it right now. I just put 40% only because I haven't seen a whole lot of evidence that he is going to be, or there haven't been movement for him to be healthy going forward, which is really limits his postseason impact score. Although when he was on the mound, Tyler Glasnow was dominant. When Blake Snell is on the mound, he can be absolutely dominant. Those are 5 starting pitchers that we have. Then we get into a little bit of some of the wild cards that you would expect to be healthy for October. Roki Sasaki, Emmett Sheehan. But the question is, what type of impact are they going to have, and are they guys that you want to be on your postseason roster? We obviously saw the greatness of Roki Sasaki during the postseason last year, at least by ERA wise. He's helped save the season for the Dodgers last year with what he did out of the bullpen. The Dodgers likely don't win the World Series without Roki Sasaki, getting them to a point not just during the World Series, but during the entirety of the postseason, to where they had a confident reliever. And you're starting to see somebody who, a lot of the numbers starting to trend in the right direction. The stuff plus, with the increase in speed and the change that he has made to his splitter, has really jumped up. The stuff plays up. It's all about execution right now. There's some growing pains with Sasaki. I would not anticipate him being in a starter role for October, but being out of the bullpen, that could be something that we could watch going forward. Postseason confidence has dropped a little bit based on his past 2 starts, but if he's able to rebound, I think this is going to go up for Roki Sasaki, and I actually truly think that he's going to be well within the mix for the postseason roster for the Los Angeles Dodgers, to where this 38% is probably pretty low. Emmett Sheehan, this is one of the ones that's perhaps one of the biggest wild cards that the Dodgers have, because there is signs of good and signs of not so good for Emmett Sheehan. You look at the pure results. 5.08 ERA, not great. 27.7% pull air percentage. That is astronomically high for Emmett Sheehan, and it's explaining some of the results that we are seeing from Emmett Sheehan. Opponents being able to pull the baseball, that's where all the power comes from. and we're seeing hitters hit for a lot more power off of Emmett Sheehan than what we did last year. Last year, pull error percentage, I think, was about 18% or so, and I think a large part of this has widely been covered, but his fastball velo. There's a vast difference in an opponent's ability to impact a baseball with a 95 miles per hour versus a 93 miles per hour. I actually ran some of the numbers looking into it. There's like, if you go based off the 2025 numbers, there's like a 5 to 6% increase in an opponent's pull air percentage just simply based off of the difference between a 95 plus mile per hour fastball and a 93 or less mile per hour fastball. And there's been far too many inconsistencies with Emmett Sheehan's performance with the velo that have led you to have question of what he's able to do. But still, you look at some of the numbers, 404 expected ERA, that's not terrible. 19% strikeout minus walk percentage, that's actually really good for Emmett Sheehan. There are still small signs that he could be there. He just hasn't been able to put all the pieces together to be consistent. If he's able to establish himself as being consistent, I think he's somebody that you could turn to not as a starter role, but potentially out of the bullpen and a relief role for the Dodgers in the postseason. He's below Roki Sasaki right now, about 35% confident. Definitely an option, but not one that, at least right now, you'd feel ultra confident in. Then I have a couple of other arms that are part of this mix. River Ryan went back on the minor league injured list. Sounds like a hamstring injury, which I don't believe is going to take him out too terribly long, but you feel bad for River Ryan. He is not somebody that should be part of the Oklahoma City Comets roster. He should be a major league player. And the fact that they're keeping him down, I totally get it. There's not a whole lot of depth minor league-wise of starting pitchers that the Dodgers have, and with the way the format of the game is played, this is kind of what they have to do, especially with some of your depth being Eric Lauer, can't be optioned. What they had to do with part of this. River Ryan, though, still absolutely deserves to be part of a major league roster. Question is, we have not seen a whole lot of him at the major league level. Very much a wild card with that. And questions about his health. He's dealt with some injuries throughout the course of the season. This one being hamstring injury. How is he going to bounce back and return from that? Then we have Eric Lauer, who has been relatively solid. Going to get another test tonight against the Athletics. But for the Dodgers, has been relatively solid. Underlying metrics aren't super flashy. 4.41 expected ERA, 7.3 strikeout minus walk percentage. Stuff plus isn't going to stand out. But his impact that he's had on the Dodgers has been really good. And let's not forget, Eric Lauer pitched against the Dodgers during the postseason last year and performed well. Part of that 18-inning game for the Toronto Blue Jays, he has the ability, not as plan A, B, or C, but to at least be a depth type of arm that the Dodgers could keep around, especially if there continues to be some injuries to the rest of their staff. He at least could be an option. Not a confident option, but an option for the Dodgers to turn to during October. Then some of the other starters, Landon Knack, just returned back from the injured list. There's really not a whole lot. And again, if these confident percentages are low, that's an indication that for 2026, how confident are you in their ability? We just have not seen a whole lot from Landon Knack, and there was struggles that he had last year, so you wouldn't really feel confident with him during a postseason type of environment right now. If he pitches really well in Oklahoma City, that perhaps could increase a little bit. Gavin Stone, with what he's done in the past, I put a little bit of confidence next to his name. However, we have not really heard a whole lot from Gavin Stone, so there's no real impact that he's going to be able to have. Not really a realistic option right now for the Dodgers of the starting pitchers. Those are the starting pitchers. If you go down to the bullpen, this is where we get into a really good group of names, and we start to be able to examine some of the depth that the Dodgers have as a pitching staff. Starting off with Tanner Scott, got to give him credit. Tanner Scott, phenomenal this year. 31% strikeout minus walk percentage is elite with really good stuff. 2.66 expected ERA, you feel confident with Tanner Scott. You feel very confident with Alex Vesia. 2.62 expected ERA, 1.14 stuff plus. There's no explanation that you have for them. Edwin Diaz, it's all about his health. I put him at about a 70% health confidence. He's starting to work his way back. If he's able to establish himself as being healthy, he is going to be somebody who, just ignore the numbers for this year, very small sample size. If he's healthy, you have very, very high confidence in his ability to make an impact in October. Jack Dreyer, who has gone through some struggles, giving up the home run, went through a little bit of a rough stretch right here. I think we take a little bit of a step back. You still have somebody that can be a reliable arm out of the bullpen. Maybe not back end out of the bullpen type of postseason arm, but I still think he's somebody that we can have a lot of confidence in if he's on the postseason roster for the Dodgers to, in the 5th, 6th inning, if needed, be able to get a couple of key outs. It's still a 3.43 expected ERA with a 21.5% strikeout minus walk percentage. Jack Dreyer doing well. Somebody that is rising up in the ranks, and you saw him come in to close the game yesterday against San Diego, Edgardo Henriquez. Let's take a little bit of a step back and look at the big picture of what Edgardo Henriquez, ever since he has entered the major leagues. I get it. There's times where he struggles with command, but he just goes out there and posts really, really good numbers. Sub-3 ERA in his career. 2.53 expected ERA for Edgardo Henriquez this season with a 126 stuff plus. His stuff is the best out of the Dodgers group by that particular metrics. He is somebody that is really starting to find his groove on the pitching side of things. And if this continues, he could be a high leverage right-handed reliever, perhaps the second best high leverage right-handed reliever outside of Edwin Diaz. He hasn't been given that many opportunities to prove himself in that aspect, be the number 2 right-handed reliever outside of Edwin Diaz. But I think we're going to start to see him get more and more of those opportunities. Will Klein, feel pretty confident in him. He's had a great season. 3.40 expected ERA. I think his season, you'd feel fairly confident with him being on the postseason roster based on the numbers that he's been able to produce thus far. And then we have Kyle Hurt, who has dealt with injuries in the past, but has gone out and had a great season. That is your group of bullpen guys. That is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different bullpen guys. That postseason impact percentage, I have it about 50%. And remember, in the postseason, you're looking for 11 or 12 pitchers to be part of this mix. You could do 13, that's the max number, but typically it's 11 or 12 that are part of your mix. Sometimes even 10. And you have these guys that you feel pretty confident in their ability to be able to perform. And that's not even mentioning guys that, if they are healthy, perhaps you're even more confident in their ability when they are healthy. Evan Phillips coming back today. We'll see if he's able to stay healthy. Not particularly confident in that, but when he's able to stay healthy, he can be lights out. Brock Stewart. Everything about Brock Stewart is, when is he available on the mound? Because when he's available on the mound versus right-handed hitters especially, he is an absolute weapon against them. It's all a question about, is he going to be able to stay healthy on the mound? That's going to impact his ability to perform in October. And then Blake Treinen, who sounds like is going to be out for a little bit less confident in Blake Treinen, but still another option that the Dodgers have if he could come back and be healthy. These are 3 injury-prone, but could be options for the Dodgers to turn to. Then we get into the rest of the guys. These are guys that not necessarily would be confident either in their ability to stay healthy or their ability to be able to impact the team this year in particular. Other guys that have dealt with injuries, or just guys that the Dodgers have brought in as more depth throughout the season. You can see the list of names that we have right here. So that leads us into what are the exact quantity of numbers that we have. So confident options, again, with this postseason impact percentage being greater than 50%, leaves us with 11 pitchers part of this mix. Those 11 include Yamamoto, Robleski, Ohtani, Snell, Scott, Vesia, Diaz, Dreyer, Henriquez, Klein, and Hurt. That does not include Tyler Glasnow as being a confident option, only because of the health. Does not include Roki Sasaki or Emmett Sheehan or River Ryan. Does not include an Evan Phillips or a Brock Stewart or even a Blake Treinen. 11 confident options, 18 different realistic options that you could look at as either being guys that could be healthy or guys that you could comfortably see getting postseason type of options for the Dodgers. And again, like I'll keep re-emphasizing, you need 11 or 12 different guys to be part of the mix. The reason why I bring that up and the reason why I'm going through all of this is you're starting to see some of the depth that the Dodgers have. Yes, the Dodgers deal with and have dealt with a lot of injuries. And a lot of this could change pretty dramatically. But from where the Dodgers are sitting right now, they have a lot of different options to be able to turn to, which goes into a question of how do they want to be able to address this? And I think we have to ask ourselves a couple of different questions with this. One, which group are you more concerned about perhaps not having enough depth going into October? With position players, a lot of the injuries are a little bit fluky in nature / less common to deal with. Position players, if there's an injury that pops up that's more serious, perhaps you can go ahead and address that. Or if things become more serious, like Will Smith's situation, that becomes a situation that you have to be able to address. Whereas with pitchers, it's a little bit more of a question of, okay, you can have a large quantity of guys, but do you have enough depth reinforced to be different comfortable options that you could go ahead and turn to in October? And I think with the position that the Dodgers are in right now, and this goes on some of the reporting that Katie Woo of The Athletic had today, I believe, or at least some of the things that she believes from some of the conversations that she's had with different people within the Dodgers organization, is I believe that the Dodgers, or from her quote, I believe the Dodgers are in a position where they're going to be advantageous at the trade deadline. Not necessarily in the mood to go out there and make the biggest trade for the biggest trade's sake. Remember last year at the trade deadline, they did not go out and trade for the highest end relief pitcher. They were advantageous and traded James Outman for Brock Stewart. Now, Brock Stewart didn't end up being healthy, but James Outman, making that trade for somebody who, in James Outman, did not have minor league options going forward, was not going to be part of the mix for the Dodgers after the following season. That was an advantageous trade for the Dodgers to take a turn to. They were able to get somebody in Alex Call, who has several years of control in the outfield, for Eric Swan and Sean-Paul Lin-Young, a couple of minor league pitchers. Hurt to be able to give up some of those minor league pitchers, but an advantageous situation for the Dodgers to turn to. A couple of years ago, obviously, the Tommy Edman trade was a trade that was needed for the Dodgers at the time, or was really helpful for the Dodgers. A little bit more advantageous in nature. That was the Miguel Vargas trade, who is doing great this year. Dodgers didn't really have a role for Miguel Vargas. They were advantageous in nature. And this goes to the approach that the Los Angeles Dodgers have consistently been able to show recently, is they're going to be advantageous in nature. Not desperate, because they don't have to be desperate. I know everybody wants to make, and I can make a very clear, and everyone can make a very clear argument why the Dodgers should go out and trade for somebody like a Tarek Skubal. And when looking at the grand nature of the completeness of this roster, would make sense, especially combined with some of the talent that they have at the minor league level that is performing really well, that you could absolutely make a realistic trade for Tarek Skubal and add him part of the mix, add another confident postseason arm that you could throw into, especially if there's concerns about Tyler Glasnow. But that's not something they have to do. And I think the strategy that the Dodgers are going to take is one of good, consistent choices, because that is the way that the Dodgers have gone over the past decade plus. They have built this dynasty not just based off of money, but because they make good, consistent choices. Does not mean that every choice that they make is good, but it means that they do what they can to make good, consistent choices as best as they possibly can, and take advantage of deals that come to them, and find situations where they can go ahead and exploit different resources and lean into some of the development path that they have. Doesn't mean that they aren't going to make a big trade, but they've got enough options to where that doesn't have to be the case. And especially with the uncertainty that there is going forward within the game of baseball, the Dodgers' mindset might not be as extreme as we need to three-peat this year. Because I think a question perhaps at the organization, and this could lead into different philosophical approaches that you could have at this individual trade deadline. What would be more valuable to you going forward? Would it be to win this upcoming World Series and cement it as a three-peat champion? Or is your concern perhaps more to win 2 out of the next 4 World Series? Could be this year, could be the following year as well. Now, that doesn't. You could make the argument that that's a little bit of flawed logic because nothing is guaranteed going forward, and especially with the age of some of these players, that perhaps is not the case that you have. But it's the question that I think is really important to people to ask is the most important question this World Series or as many World Series in this window as we possibly can have. And that could lead you down very different paths, whether you should trade Mike Sirota and Josue De Paula or Mike Sirota or Josue De Paula, plus some of your pitching depth some of the pitching depth at Oklahoma City is a little bit lacking right now in terms of MLB ready arms. Jackson Ferris has struggled this year. There's a little bit lacking of the major league ready arms that you could go to. Do you want to sacrifice some of that? Or is it in the Dodgers' overall grand big picture best interest perhaps to hold on to that? I'm not saying that there is a correct decision or there aren't arguments for each, but the Dodgers are in a position to do either one. Either go all in for a three-peat or be prepared in any type of situation that the CBA brings next year, no matter what form that looks at, and still be best positioned to win the World Series this year and have all the pieces going forward to be able to go out and have a team that is built to win World Series going forward now and into the future. Lots of different options for the Dodgers to turn to. This is what we're looking at, postseason impact percentage. This is going to be something we're going to turn to quite a bit as we address this Dodgers team and just look at the overall impact that they could have, as well as different options that the Dodgers could turn to externally via trade. It might be some under the radar guys, might be some high profile type of names. We'll see what moves that the Dodgers end up making. We know there's going to be a lot of discussions that we're going to be able to have with that. All right, I want to turn this over to you guys before we do a little bit of talk down at the minor league level, just to provide you guys with a little bit of an overview of what's been going on over there, since it's been a while since I've done a show on here. If you want a little bit of an overview of what I've talked about at the minor league level, be sure to go check out the episode that I did with Coach Barikoff at the Ravine Rundown. Talked through a lot of different stuff with Great Lakes, which, by the way, great series with them in Lansing that I got to go to. So let's get into a couple of comments, questions that you guys have, be able to dive into some of this. Let's see, getting into some of these. Let's see. Let's answer a couple of questions. Sammy Boy Smith, healthy, and when Tucker can figure out to the latest scouting report on him, just a matter of time before that happens. Yeah, absolutely. The plan is working exactly as planned. Bring Snell and Glasnow back in August and ready for September. 95 wins for the season should be sufficient, especially with some of the concerns that San Diego has offensively. Not a great offensive team overall. They should be just fine with that. Worry about the playoffs and not the regular season is exactly right with that. Let's see. Teo coming back, I think, this series. Yes, Teoscar Hernandez is making his return tonight for the Los Angeles Dodgers, or he has been added to the 60-man roster for them. Tracy so this is my best day, best Dodgers podcast. Happy to be back with this, and hopefully Casey is able to join us again. I know you guys are waiting for that. Hopefully next week, sounds like, is the estimated return for Casey, who has been dealing with some pretty bad fevers over the past couple of weeks. Chuck Hulson, Edman has been hitting well above his waist and his weight and past performance. That is true. Perhaps we can adjust that down back a little bit, but if we're doing that, the same thing for Tommy Edman, we also have to adjust back up the expectations that we would have for somebody like a Kyle Tucker and a Mookie Betts. And I think you're still looking at a team that is the best offense in the game of baseball. Let's see, getting into a couple of this. JC Gonzalez, Rojas will not start in the postseason unless they plan to sit Pages. I think that's right with that. Ward to Oklahoma City with Teo back. Yep. Good to see you, Carlos Garcia, as well. Sammy Boy Smith, Kim's trying to learn third base too. Plus, I think they're trying to change his whole hitting approach, isn't he? Trying to hit for more power. I have not had the chance to watch a ton of Oklahoma City baseball. I'd be curious to kind of figure out what exactly they're trying to do. The numbers haven't necessarily been great, but that's not the most important thing you could say, or the only thing. That's what I'll use is the exclusive thing to look at when evaluating Ha-Seong Kim is perhaps there's other things that you could turn to or that they're working on with him that perhaps is explaining some of the struggles that he's had since he's been there. Timetable, same Boy Smiths for Stone, Bobby Miller, Ferris. Don't really have a whole lot of different timetables and stuff for that. No inside information. We'll see what happens for them. With Ferris, struggled a little bit more down in Oklahoma City, so it's going to be a little bit for him. We'll talk through some pitching prospects that have actually performed really well this year. And then for my grandfather, bring the stats, Austin, from your biggest fan. Really appreciate you tuning into the show today. All right, let's go ahead and dive into some of the stuff at the minor league level. If you guys have any thoughts or questions about this, happy to be able to dive into that. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an overview at the minor league level so you guys can see what's going on with some of the numbers. What I've done, pulled some of the data that we have from the minor league level, put it into this, sorted by weighted runs above average. I did not sort it by WRC plus, only because weighted runs above average shows more of the cumulative, it's like the cumulative aspect of WRC plus, and shows the more the cumulative aspect. The example that I use is, let's say you take somebody with a 150 WRC plus, two players with 150 WRC plus, exact same, but one does it in 50 plate appearances and one does it in 500 plate appearances. The person who did it in 500 plate appearances had more cumulative impact than the other player, so they should be rewarded for that. Weighted runs above average, cumulative aspect of WRC plus ends up doing that. And the top player on this list, no surprise, Mike Sirota. He is probably he is the best player in minor league baseball offensively so far this year. 177 WRC plus, 33.9 weighted runs above average. I believe that is number one in all of minor league baseball. Outfield prospect for the Dodgers organization, just incredible. 328, 484, 573, 21% walk percentage. Little bit of swing and miss as part of his game, but still just overall ridiculous performance from Mike Sirota. James Tibbs III, also a really good performer. A couple of guys perhaps you have not heard quite as much about, I'll mention, just because I had the first chance to be able to see him in Lansing this past week playing for Great Lakes. Chase Harlan, third base prospect, is doing great things with the bat this year. 331, 433 with a 583 slugging percentage coming out of 19-year-old combined between Ontario and Great Lakes. That's a 153 WRC plus. Hitting for power, had a 2-home run game in Lansing on Saturday, I believe. 252 isolated power. And coming from somebody that doesn't strike out a whole lot. Just a 19% strikeout percentage. Ridiculous stuff for Chase Harlan. Josue DePaula doing ridiculous things this year, 148 WRC plus for him. Easton Shelton has 21 plus home runs on the season. There's a lot of really good guys that are part of this mix that have performed well offensively. Eduardo Quintero is starting to make real strides on the offense. Hit his 4th home run. Home run totals are down, but especially after his incredibly slow first 2.5 weeks, to be up to a 120 WRC plus with the 5-tool potential that he has, Eduardo Quintero is doing great things. Emil Morales, as mentioned earlier in the show, starting to turn things around for Great Lakes. 114 WRC plus combined on the season between Ontario and Great Lakes. Got to see him hit, I believe, a 462-foot home run to give Great Lakes the lead at the time to dead center field. Just ridiculous power that Emil Morales has. Him and Chase Harlan are going to be two impactful pieces for Great Lakes in the second half. You can see some of the other numbers that we have right here. A lot of hitters that are really good, above league average type of hitters that are part of this Dodgers minor league system this year. Just the overall minor league system for the hitters. And then you go to the pitching side. The key metric that we're going to use for this is strikeout minus walk percentage. This is the strikeout percentage minus the walk percentage. Actually turns out to be pretty predictive of future success. Couple of names that are on here. Christian Zazueta. Zazueta is pitching prospect, was part of Great Lakes, just recently got promoted to Tulsa. Oh my goodness, this kid is good. It's upper 90s fastball, 96, 97-ish, typically sitting for Zazueta with, as Brad Tunney, play-by-play broadcaster, feathery changeup, slider mix. That mix is so good. Walk percentage, sub 6 on the season with the 36% strikeout percentage, 30% strikeout minus walk percentage is one of the best marks in all of minor league baseball with the amount of times that he pitches. And right behind him, down in Ontario, Brady Smith. Brady Smith, a 30% strikeout minus walk percentage with a 17% swinging strike percentage. That's a really good season for Brady Smith. A couple of other guys part of the mix. Lucas Webb has performed well. Cam Leiter, the second round draft pick, I believe, for the Dodgers this past year, has a 26.5 strikeout minus walk percentage with a 62% ground ball percentage. Those are insane metrics coming from Cam Leiter, who, as he pitches more, likely he's going to come up some point pretty soon. Got to see Tyler Goff make his high A debut for Great Lakes. Went 5 scoreless innings with 7 strikeouts. He's putting up a really good season. Came over in the trade for Robinson Ortiz from Seattle. Looks like in the very early portion of a portion of the season, looks to be a little bit of a steal for Great Lakes. A couple of guys, I mentioned them on the show with Coach Barikoff. Brooks Auger. Auger has taken his game to another level, turning in from somebody who doesn't really strike out a whole lot of hitters to being a very good strikeout pitcher. 35% strikeout percentage for Brooks Auger on the season. His fastball velo seems to be up so far this season from what it was last year. And last year, he was closer to a 15-16% strikeout percentage pitcher. Much improvement for him. And the guy that I mentioned pretty heavily on the show last time, Aiden Fuller. I can't say enough good things about Fuller with his strikeout ability, 32% strikeout percentage, 23.5 strikeout minus walk percentage, 159 batting average on the season, 221 ERA. But his ability to get swing and miss, especially with his fastball, is very impressive. Just looking at some of the metrics, I'll re-emphasize what I had talked a little bit about during the show with Coach Barikoff, is if you look at Stuff Plus of the 2025 season, which that's not public data, but it was released by Baseball America, the best pitcher in 2025 in the Dodgers system was Aiden Fuller. Aiden Fuller had the best Stuff Plus for the Dodgers last year, and it's largely due to his unique shape on his fastball. I'm just going to use one metric because it's the only metric that's public. Don't really have other aspects of that, but induced vertical break, sounds like the induced vertical break on his fastball, 19 inches of induced vertical break, at least that metric. Again, induced vertical break is the metric that allows somebody like an Alex Vesia and Jack Dreyer to have as much success as he has. And this is coming from a fastball where you look at Vesia and Dreyer's fastball, typically sits lower 90s. Aiden Fuller, fastball consistently mid-90s, 94, 95, 96, touches 97. If you look at induced vertical break, 19 inches induced vertical break, plus that type of speed with his fastball, which especially look at his outing against Lake County in an elimination game for Great Lakes against Lake County where he went nearly 5 perfect innings, got a ton of swing and miss with his fastball. And that fastball, if you look at those characteristics this season, 95 miles per hour, 19 inches of induced vertical break, compare that to all fastballs, comes with about a 10% increase in whiff percentage. You look at Aiden Fuller, if he's able to get that much more whiff on his fastball, and he's able to develop his secondary pitches as well, you're looking at a very serious weapon for the Dodgers going forward in Aiden Fuller. 24 years old, perhaps a little bit older for the level, but still ridiculous stuff. He is going to be somebody that you're going to start to hear a little bit about in the system as far as pitching prospects. Missed a little bit of time in the season with a couple of starts with an injury, undisclosed injury that he had to deal with. These are different pitchers, strikeout minus walk percentage. You can see all these different arms right here. Lots of good things happening within the Dodgers system. By WRC Plus, the Dodgers are the best offensive unit at the minor league level. I think they have a 109 WRC Plus. That's the first in minor league baseball. By a lot of offensive metrics, they're one of the better offensive teams in minor league baseball. And they shouldn't be, because they draft near the end of the draft every single year because they gave up some certain aspects of international bonus pool money to Roki Sasaki. Not saying that impact is completely felt, but they make decisions like that impact their team and impact their ability to draw in different players through the draft or through international signing bonus type of money. The Loons still have the highest strikeout percentage of any team in affiliated ball. This is a good minor league system that the Dodgers are producing, and the organization continues to go out there, develop players, be able to make an impact. And as you're starting to see during the regular season, there's a lot of players on other teams that the Dodgers had developed that are making an impact. Miguel Vargas is one of the best third basemen in the game of baseball. Michael Busch is still killing it over with the Chicago Cubs. Johnny DeLuca is finding a very pivotal role for the Tampa Bay Rays. Yorbit Vivas is finding a role for the Washington Nationals and being a close to a league average type of hitter for them. Very good turnaround for Yorbit Vivas. There are a lot of players, recent success stories, that not just on the Los Angeles Dodgers, but on other organizations as well, that have turned it around and become really productive hitters. And as the Dodgers continue to build that reputation, the more other teams are going to want to trade for Dodgers prospects, the more other teams are going to want to be able to take on, allow them to be able to make trades with the Dodgers to open up all the different options that the Dodgers could go ahead and turn to. I'm really excited about the future of the Dodgers, and it just opens up all different possibilities. The train that the Dodgers are on, or the role that the Dodgers have been on, does not appear to be stopping anytime soon. And that comes in ability to be able to put themselves in the best position to win a World Series, ability to make any sort of trades to be able to help improve this roster, as well as being able to develop talent that can go ahead and help this club to where there is not a dramatic drop-off after the years of Freddie Freeman, after the years of some of these players that are on this roster, because they're going to have enough options to where, whether it's internally or externally, be able to address the need. And they have the smartest front office to be able to address that, and a deep desire to go ahead and win. Doesn't matter the CBA rules, does not matter what sort of penalties the Dodgers have been able to take on. They seem to be the team that can go ahead and overcome all of those different obstacles. Truly remarkable as a fan of the game of baseball and as somebody who likes to dive into all these different decisions. It's truly remarkable to be able to watch that. All right, that's going to do it for the show today. Just a little bit of a heads up. Obviously, talked a little bit about the show. Casey's dealing with some illnesses right now, so he hasn't been able to do the show or really talk a whole lot about the Dodgers on social media. He's hoping to be able to return next week. I don't know with my schedule if I'll be able to do another show this week. Perhaps it could be similar-ish time on Wednesday. I don't know for sure if I'm going to be able to make that happen. Thursday and Friday, I'll be in Fort Wayne watching Great Lakes. That's another thing. If you guys notice, I've been busy. Very heavily invested in what's going on with Great Lakes. Being Great Lakes Thursday and Friday, weather permitted, in Fort Wayne's. Excited about that. Going to be super hot over there in the Midwest. But I'm excited about that. At the very latest, we should be having another show Monday with me, but I'm hoping to be able to do another show Wednesday, kind of similar time, probably 5:15 Eastern, 2:15 Pacific time. Thank you so much for your support that you have for Dodgers Daily. Be praying for Casey and his health, and just send him notes of encouragement that you guys miss him, that you guys enjoy the show. I'm sure that would be greatly appreciated for him. I can't thank you guys enough for the support that you guys have and for continuing to return to Dodgers Daily, even if there are times where we're not able to do that. So thank you for that. It is always a good day to be a Dodger.